Alright, hello everybody, I'm Cassie LaForest, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about adolescent literature and adolescent development. More specifically, I'm going to be looking at adolescent development through peer groups and through the lens of David Levithan's Boy Meets Boy. So basically, what my aim is to talk about how Levithan's novel undermines the traditional peer group culture, because we generally see peer groups as good and how they help adolescents develop their identity, but he kind of subverts this in his novel, and so I'm going to show how that subversion gives us a glimpse into how we need to rethink peer groups and what some solutions are. I will be talking about homosexual versus heteronormative students and how peer groups can give them homosexual students a chance to express their identity or simultaneously kind of dilute it. So this is my agenda for what I'm going to be talking about. First, we're going to be talking about what adolescent identity is through the lens of research and educational psychology. We're going to talk about what contributes to adolescent identity, and more specifically peer group culture, and defining that through research and educational psychology. Then we're going to be looking at it through the lens of Levithan. So we're going to define adolescent identity in his terms, same with peer groups, how he looks at peer groups and how that can change our perspective of what peer groups are. We're going to talk about what he subverts and what that means and how we can fix the problem of peer groups kind of delineating adolescent identity, and how we can create an atmosphere for students to be in a peer group in a way that supplements, not defines, their identity. And then we're done. So first we're going to talk about what is adolescent identity. We're going to define it in terms of educational psychology. Anita Woolfolk is an educational psychologist who wrote a textbook about educational psychology. And in this book, she talks about adolescent identity as a complex answer to the question, who am I? As students move into adolescence, they become bombarded with physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and maybe spiritual changes. One of the most complex issues during this time is the answer to the question, who am I? Because obviously they have a lot of things to contend with as far as academics, peers, their differing bodies. So this could be, their identity could be deciding to dress a certain way or to behave a certain way academically. And if they can't conglomerate all these factors, role confusion ensues. So basically, if they can't find a niche to express themselves, then they feel as though they can't express their identity or define it. So there are several things that can facilitate or hinder adolescent identity. Hindering adolescent development there are several things that can contribute. Being forced to be a certain way by an authority is called identity foreclosure. So this can be seen with a lot of students who are super academic. They have a parental figure or maybe a role model that kind of forces their lifestyle on a child, so they feel as though they can't explore choices. They feel as though they have to be this certain way, this academic, this dancer, this debater, whatever, that their parents decide. Or there are those students who are simply apathetic. They feel as though they have no direction to go, so they just give up and they just go wherever the wind blows them. That's called identity diffusion. The third is being stuck within two choices, which is called moratorium. I'm not quite sure what these two choices would be. The research isn't clear. What I got out of it is if they have a decision between, working hard and being in school, or working hard in school and having friends. So maybe they're constantly between two identities. Or this could relate back to homosexual students who feel as though they need to have an identity acceptable to other people or to be true to themselves. So as far as what facilitates adolescent identity development, having a supportive system, so if there's a supportive family that allows them to express themselves any way they please, or by exercising a skill or hobby. So if a student gets involved in art or dance or music or whatever whatever interests them, that can help them to kind of hone in on what makes them unique. And then finally, the one that we're going to talk about is peer group affiliation. Research shows that peer groups are one huge factor in deciding, in helping an adolescent to decide who they are. So, Pugh and Hart, they're the authors of the article, hold on a minute. Identity development and peer group participation. And in this article, they researched peer groups and how that helped or hindered adolescent identity development. And what they ultimately believe is that peer groups are the ultimate constructor of adolescent identity. They feel as though it's integral to their experience. They define 4 broad categories, which are shown in the pie chart. Mostly there's well-rounded students. Well-rounded students, as the majority, are populars, jocks, and normal people, is what they said. So anyone who participates in sports, anyone who has a large peer group. And then there's the studious students who make up the next majority. These are the students that are really academically involved in their school. There's uninvolved. Those are the people who are considered nobodies. Uninvolved and loner are pretty similar. They're considered kind of on their own. They just kind of do their own thing. And there's not a lot of them according to the article. Pugh and Hart believe that peer groups give adolescents a chance to reform, revise, or confirm established values. They said that peer groups are what allow adolescents to prematurely categorize themselves within a larger social environment, i.e. high school. So they say that adolescents cannot truly affiliate themselves with a certain set of values without the help of peer groups. They say, overall, these authors claim that what they do, adolescents, and how they are perceived by their peers are inextricably linked, and changes in activities and perceptions are associated with strength and stability of ego identity and their visions of their future selves. So in other words, peer group participation is essential to the identity construction process and may be the sole contributor to the successful execution of this process. So in other words, they feel as though there's no other way for them to scaffold them into having a full sense of self. So to help us look at peer groups, I got a clip from Mean Girls. If it will play. Matt, why don't you pause it real quick?